Well, we may have to bleep this entire episode, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this episode of Right Angle brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Men, Kendrick Lamar was performing at a music festival, and I'm so hip, I'm not even going to say who Kendrick Lamar is, because I'm assuming that our viewers are also that hip. Anyway, he invited some members of the audience up on stage to sing along with one of his popular songs. And apparently the ground rules had it that they were not to mention a particular word which has become in our vernacular known as the N-word. And so the first performer got up there and did a pretty good job, according to reports on Twitter, and was self-editing and did not use the N-word. But the second one, a white woman apparently who goes by the name Delaney, got up there and in fact actually dropped the N-word 3 times during the course of her little rap. And apparently she wasn't making stuff up. That's how the song goes. At that point, Kendrick Lamar, the performing artist, stepped in and stopped her and then remarked how the previous artist had had the courtesy to delete that word and that she needed to be able to edit herself. And he asked the crowd whether she should be allowed to go on. The crowd said yes. And so she went on and she edited herself and didn't say it. And eventually he kind of hustled her off the stage. But that moment struck me, Stephen Green, because I thought, what's wrong with somebody getting up on stage and singing your song word for word? Stephen Green, what did Delaney do wrong?
Well, where to begin on this? Okay, first I have to start off with a mini rant on the state of songwriting today. I was at the grocery store. I don't remember when this was. I never listened to new music, so I have no idea what this song was. You know, I've got a really good music collection, and that's what I listen to. So when I'm out in public somewhere and I'm not in my car with the music on or at home with the music on, that's when I get exposed to what's new. And I heard just the most banal line in a song I've ever heard being piped through the sound system at King Soopers, and it was, "I want to hold your hand on a mountain." Well, what the hell does that mean? You like public displays of affection and nice scenery? This says absolutely nothing. Compare that. I think this is a Cole Porter lyric from Our Love Is Here to Stay. I think he wrote that one, which is, in time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar it may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. So if you want to talk about, mountaintops and love, that is a lyric that actually conveys a message. That's solid songwriting, solid lyric writing right there. And I miss that. The state of songwriting today does not support that at all. But the second part of this is I'm a dad, and my kids repeat what I say, not always quite accurately. I remember my older son, when he was about 3, on 2 different occasions. One, he got it right. One, he got it comically wrong. The comically wrong was he was frustrated with something and said, "Oh, cheeses," which was just about the funniest thing ever. And the other one was, I'm usually really good about having my FCC filter over my mouth when the kids are around, but occasionally they hear things they shouldn't because occasionally I say things I shouldn't. And my younger son, again about the same age, probably about 3, got frustrated with something, trying to pry it off the Lego table, and ended up saying GD it exactly like me, but about 4 octaves higher. And the same thing is happening with this guy. If there's something you don't want your audience to sing, then don't sing it yourself.
Well, Bill Whittle, this really struck me because a day or so before I read this story, I was listening to this new app called YT Music that I have on my phone, and I thought every once in a while I dip into whatever is currently popular just so I can kind of get a sense of what the zeitgeist is, so to speak. And I've noticed that in all the top lists, they have the little E for explicit in like 8 or 9 of the 10 top songs on almost everything. And I just thought, there's like nothing in the top 10 that you can sneak in there that doesn't have the explicit language. And I was listening to this song, and over it was using the N-word. And Bill, it just suddenly occurred to me for the first time ever, wow, white kids listen to this music. And like us when we were kids, they probably learn the words. And like us, they probably sing along. And they probably sing along in public places. It never struck me that way before. And then I see this story where this white kid tries to sing along with this song in a public place, Bill. It's not permissible, even though you can make big bank by singing that way if you're not a white kid.
This whole concert experience that you described, the reason the story is so interesting is it's a pretty flagrant example of black skin privilege. And I know people think I'm being flipped by this, but I'm as serious as I can be. And I'm not serious to say that being black is an advantage in society to a degree of economics and so on.
No.
What I'm saying is this. What that guy was doing was he was protecting the pecking order of grievances upon which the entire progressive movement is built and upon which many in the black community have decided to stake their future. The grievance route is the route that says that we've been harmed 7 generations ago, and therefore we want these concessions and we want this, and this, and this becomes our identity and so on. This is the route that essentially was determined by W.E.B. Du Bois and so on. But basically what they're doing is they're saying, we're allowed to say things that you're not allowed to say because we've been victimized. And because we've been victimized, that gives us certain privileges and gives you certain responsibilities and restrictions. If he had just simply allowed people to come up and sing his songs the way he'd written them, then everybody in society would be, individuals. And we'd have to judge that person based on whether or not they sang well rather than whether or not they conformed to the progressive codes of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So that's pretty much why it happened. The better question is this a good idea? My experience looking at the history of the world, and certainly my own personal experiences at the times when I felt like I was wronged and victimized, were the times in my life when I was the most unhappy, the least successful, and the just simply the worst times of my life. This protection of victimhood is not a virtue. It's a perpetual refettering of psychological chains that have kept Black America from reaching its full potential. And he should be ashamed of himself. Frankly, I think it should be one way or the other. Either, and I'll go along with the convention the same way that I'd go along with the F-word convention. Generally, I don't like people telling me how to speak, and I certainly don't like being told to speak like a 4-year-old, but the F-word is a good example of convention, so I'll go along with that. I think this is the problem for Black America. Either that word is so off limits because of its supercharged racial background that is simply something that is not said, period, in society. Or, and I much prefer this, or it is a word that has been co-opted in the same way that gay has been and queer has been, and basically been owned by a once despised community as a way of essentially unempowering the word, taking the venom out of it.
Yeah.
And so what guys like this rap artists are doing is they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to have the word as a casual form of street cred and a casual form of recognition, and certainly it is a form of class distinction against white people, which is attractive. Get to say, no, you can't do this. But I don't think you can have it both ways. And you are right. There are millions and millions of young white Americans, young white kids all around the world who are singing these words at full volume and then have to go through the psychological torment of trying to decide whether or not it's okay to say what they are singing on the record, in what group and what company. Are these friends close enough of mine so that I can actually say what's on the song? It's not a problem you have with Cole Porter. And I suspect that form of doublethink and cognitive dissonance on the part of young white people is also a desired byproduct of this policy.
I'm torn on this because I was thinking exactly what Bill was. There was a time when, you could call an Irish person a Mick, and if you were Irish, no problem. If you were not Irish, you might get in a fist fight over it, depending on how you said it. But that is different. There's no context in which you can use the N-word if you're not black in which it's considered acceptable. There's no gentle, soft way of saying it that makes it clear that your affection for the person runs deeper than any language. It was disturbing to me when I heard this song, because first of all, I just hate to hear people denigrate themselves. I hate to hear people, you ever around somebody who just is kind of engaged in constant negative self-talk and self-deprecation that is not just done for humor's sake, but is actually just a constant tearing down of their person. But these famous people who have made millions of dollars through the great gift that they have of writing and performing music, are not just tearing down themselves, they're tearing down entire swaths of Americans and people around the world. And the thought that they are then putting this meme, so to speak, in the mouths of people of all races and essentially encouraging them to do what every generation of kids from, listening to rock and roll or Cole Porter tunes have done and learn these songs, I just thought, why would you tear your people down this way? Why would you tear my people down this way? And by my people, I mean Americans. And that's heartbreaking to me. Well, according to the person who videotaped this incident at the Kendrick Lamar concert, the fans said that the whole vibe of the concert was thrown off, so much so that the rapper followed up this encounter with his famous song, apparently that the title of which is, and here's another word I can't even say, B word, don't kill my vibe. And I thought, that's acceptable? You're a man. You're referring to women that way? And once again, it's not saying to any individual person, it's not a term of endearment that you're using with your somehow weird loved one. It is tearing down the entire sex of women and denigrating them. And I can't make you change your lyrics. And I can't make you stop this crazy progressive enforcement of silence on some people, but, free speech on other people. I'm just kind of pleading with the entire industry to say, listen to what you're saying. Listen to what it means. Look at what you've done to your own people. Look at what you've done to your daughter. And change. You can't keep carrying on this way and lift people up. Not every song has to be positive, rosy, sunny, but you're tearing down the country and you're tearing down women and you're tearing down black people. Stop it. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.